So welcome back. We will now cover the first three topics in the first destination under the 2024 call of the research infrastructure as part of Horizon Europe. So this destination is about consolidating, developing and optimizing the European research infrastructure landscape. So really about reinforcing research infrastructure capacities, but also their role at the global level. So we will hear from three colleagues covering the three topics. Do not forget that you can post your questions on Slido. So you will see, you have already seen the QR code, and we will display it again so that you can connect. For the first topic, which is about research infrastructure concept development, I have in the studio with me Agnès Robin, who will present all you need to know about this topic. Agnès.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, everyone. So we start with a very early phase of the life cycle of research infrastructure with the concept development. And you see the usual slide with the different key elements for this specific topic. So first of all, it's a research and innovation action. You have the indicative budget, 12 million. And more important is what we think it's the most appropriate EU contribution for one project between 1 to 3 million. So, of course, depending on the nature of the facilities that you have in mind, the budget can be quite different. That's why you have from 1 to 3 times 1 million to 3 million, which is a quite broad range. Other condition is, it's not really a other condition, but the indicative number of projects expected to be funded is 5, but of course, depending on the individual budget, it can be more or less. Eligible cost will take the form of a lump sum. The timing, it's exactly for the same for all topics that we present today, opening in December and deadline early March. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. So what is it about? Research infrastructure concept development. First, we start with the expected outcome, and it's important to notice that we hope that you will present a proposal addressing all this expected outcome. Here you can see some highlighted in blue. It's really the immediate outcome of a selected project. So the most important is that with concept development, you will support funding agencies, governments, and key players in the decision making to plan and decide about infrastructure at national level, but also at European level, and we are thinking to S3 in particular. So what is important is that the project presents solid science cases, and this includes expected scientific breakthroughs, reference to gap analysis, and feasibility design studies for future research infrastructures, or that include also major upgrades. Also very important, and here I'm moving to the last point, is that aspects related to the reduction of environmental impacts, that include climate-related impact, as well as optimization of resource and energy consumption. All that is integrated in the very early phase of development of new infrastructure or major upgrades. So that's really the, sorry, could we stay in the, yeah, thank you. So that's really the immediate expected outcome. And as outcome or impact, I would mention that we expect a better alignment of the infrastructure landscape with the current advancements in excellent science, in frontier research and technology innovation. We expect increased performance, scientific capacity and excellence of the European infrastructure landscape. And last but not least, of course, new services and new access opportunities that are available to the research community, allowing to better tackle scientific and societal challenges. Next slide. So the scope. So this topic really aims at supporting the development of new concepts for the next generation of research infrastructure of European interest. So it's not just new instrument, it's really brand new infrastructure, new concept. It can be single-sited, multi-sited, a fully distributed infrastructure or virtual infrastructure that typically none or few countries might individually be able to implement. And that can cover all fields of research. So contrary to last call, this is bottom-up, all fields of research that can be considered. And we, as already mentioned, we consider both new or major upgrade. And when we refer to upgrade, it's really if this is equivalent to a full new concept of infrastructure. Proposal will tackle all key questions concerning the technical and conceptual feasibility of new upgraded, fully fledged user facilities. So this includes demonstrating relevance in relation to the European research area and also advancement with respect to the state of the art. It's up to highlight the research challenges and explicitly indicate the gaps that the research infrastructure landscape in the landscape that this new infrastructure will cover. It should also present clearly any synergies with other existing infrastructures, and when relevant, mention potential impact at regional level. The project must demonstrate aspects that will be effectively addressed. In particular, the project should identify the technologies and the architecture that will be developed for the infrastructures, which scientific user communities will benefit from this infrastructure, governance options, strategy approaches for commitment and engagement. It should also develop the initial financial plans for the implementation and operations of infrastructures, as well as ideas for long-term sustainability, and that covers synergies with other funds, other programs. It should also develop the plans for data curation and preservation, and also how the provision of access to data will be collected in line with FAIR principle. It's important to notice that we are not considering just a new component of infrastructure, but it's really true new infrastructure that should be developed. Last, in the work program, you will see that this topic mentioned, when relevant, environmental resources and energy should be addressed, in particular, or including climate-related impacts. I'm a bit careful with when relevant because I have difficulty to see any new project of infrastructure where there would be nothing relevant in the context of environmental impact or in the use of resource and energy. So really this when relevant is between quotes. And with this, I think I've finished with this topic. Thank you.
Many thanks, Agnès. Yes, indeed, increasing challenges on environmental energy issues. So this is definitely something we expected to see cover in this topic. So very clear. Let's move to the second topic, open in 24 for this destination, which is about how we can strengthen our bilateral cooperation on research infrastructures with Africa. And for that, I have my colleague Patricia Postigo, who will explain what's in the scope and expected outcome of this topic. Patricia?
Hello, good morning, everybody. Just to confirm that the image and the sound is correct. I think it is. So this is our call topic on collaboration with Africa. The type of action is a coordination and support action. And the idea is to finance 2 projects of approximately 1.5 million each in the form of a lump sum. And the call opens, like the previous call, on December the 6th and closes on March next year on the 12th. Next slide, please. The objectives of this call topic, the expected outcome, are very straightforward. The objective is to improve the collaboration between European research infrastructures with their African counterparts, while increasing and supporting capacity building in research infrastructures in the African continent. And all this is aligned with the EU-Africa strategy, which mentions to building capacity, fostering skills, and paying attention to gender issues and young researchers. Next slide, please. So what type of project would fit within the terms of this call topic and address the expected outcomes? Well, it would be a project involving research infrastructures where they would share good practices and lay the ground for structuring a collaboration that can be sustained in time or grow to include new partners. And bear in mind that we have an ongoing grant that will end in August 25. It's called CADI, and it works on building capacity in environmental observation data, climate change services in Africa. So we are looking for projects that work on different fields. This is the reference in the call text saying in fields other than a previous call. So this is Project CADI with K, in case you want to look for it. So your proposal should build on existing cooperation activities. This doesn't mean that you need to have had a previous grant from our program. This just means that in your proposal, you need to describe previous existing collaboration and explain how your project would build on it or complement other initiatives. Also, you need to bear in mind that the call text says that proposals that contribute to ongoing international initiatives are welcome. This means this is a reference mostly to international environmental observation initiatives. So this means that if your proposal looks for building capacity in Africa through collaboration with European laboratories in a way that Africa can contribute to these international initiatives, this is a proposal that would be considered relevant. This doesn't mean this is the only type of proposal that is considered relevant. It means that it's just another criterion in the overall list of criteria that will be used to consider the relevance and the quality of the proposal. And I think you need to bear in mind that you need to have at least 2 legal entities from 2 different African Union member states in the proposal. So this is all for me. Thank you.
And with that, let's move to the last topic covered by this destination in 2024, which is about consolidating the research infrastructure landscape, individual support for the evolution and long-term sustainability of pan-European research infrastructures. And for that, I'll give back the floor to Agnès, who will describe this topic for you. Agnès.
Thank you, Michael. So here we are moving to a topic that I believe you are quite familiar because we are offering this kind of opportunity on a regular basis. So it's still, of course, about the consolidation of the infrastructure landscape, but it's really focusing on individual support to pan-European research infrastructures. So again, the type of action, it's a research and innovation action. You have the indicative budget of 8 million, and we expect contribution per project between 2 and 4 million. Please note that the funding rate is 80%. Important other condition, we must have in the consortium at least one of the S3 landmarks, and in the work program you will have a link to the S3 roadmap and where you can find the list of S3 landmarks, or at least one ERIC. The indicative number of projects expected to be funded is in principle 2. It can be more if there are more projects below, rather at 2 million instead of 4. The timing is the same as for all topics today. 6th December we open the call, and on 12th March next year this is a strict deadline. Next slide. So what is the expected outcome of this topic? And here you have to address several of them, but not necessarily all of them. First of all, we expect a better structure and strengthen European research infrastructure landscape. We consolidate really the landscape by strengthening individual facilities. It could be new services that are made available to a wider user community, and that could include participants from other parts of Horizon Europe, allowing to better tackle scientific and societal challenges. So here, there is an opportunity to make a link and synergies between the first pillar of Horizon Europe and the second and third one. An expected outcome can be also the increased capacity to address EU policy priorities, and that's linked to the former point, and support EU industry. In addition, the aim is to reinforce global competitiveness of the European research area, to reduce environmental, including climate-related impacts, as well as optimizing resource and energy consumption of facilities. And these objectives should be integrated through the full life cycle of research infrastructure. So we have already seen that we would like that to be addressed at the level of the very early phase concept development, but it's valid for the whole life cycle. And when strengthening individual facilities, we consider that's also an important expected outcome. And last, increase long-term sustainability of European research infrastructure by making the infrastructure stronger and addressing all scientific and societal challenges. We can move to the following slide. So what is the scope? As already mentioned, that's about the consolidation of the landscape and through the support to strengthening long-term sustainability, if relevant, reorientation or evolution of the S3 landmark or other ERICs. And if relevant, there could be a more specific scope that could be further defined to address very specific emerging needs identified and agreed at EU level. So that could be things that were not planned when the infrastructure was developed, but because of the change of landscape, change of needs, there is a need to address these new aspects, new challenges, and that requires some effort. It could be activities to address long-term sustainability. So such activity could include enlargement of the membership or broadening the base of participating countries. That could be developing international cooperation or revising the business funding plan. It could also include development of managerial and technical skills of the research infrastructure staff, also structuring and strengthening national nodes, in particular, this is referring to distributed research infrastructures. The support can also be provided to the development of solutions, helping the recovery from notably the COVID-19 pandemic consequences on service provision. And we are thinking in particular to the extension of remote and virtual access or specific issue with the management of the infrastructure itself. I have another slide still on the scope. If we can move to this last slide, yes. What is important, if there are activities to reorientate or for the evolution of the infrastructure, it should fill gaps in the infrastructure landscape. That should be explicitly described in the proposal. It should enable the infrastructure to address new research or societal challenges and or serve new user communities. It should increase and improve the service capacity and or integrate new resources and facilities. The proposal should make very clear any synergies and complementarities with previous or current EU grants. So it's important that in the proposal you really demonstrate that you address specific needs, specific to your facilities, and that makes a difference compared to what has been supported in the past. When relevant, specific attention should be given to the greening of technologies and methodologies used by the research infrastructures. Attention should also be given to the interaction with industry and SMEs, to fostering innovation potential, and that could include the social innovation potential of the infrastructures, and also their integration into local, regional, and global innovation ecosystem. So not the infrastructure in isolation, but really thinking how it fits with the whole ecosystem infrastructure. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you again, Agnes. So, research infrastructure concept development, research infrastructure consolidation, cooperation with Africa on research infrastructures. Now, let's have a look at Slido to see if there are any questions on these three topics. So, the first one, is research infrastructure allowed to participate in more than one project proposal? Yes, of course. This is perfectly allowable. So that was an easy one. I don't know, Agnes, anything to add on this point?
Maybe just to add that if the same infrastructure is involved in many proposals, you have to pay more attention on how you evidence you have the resources to carry out all these proposals should they be selected.
Absolutely. So a reminder on the overall criteria, of course, it's about excellence, it's about impact, but it's also indeed about implementation, and this is where the resource issue comes in. Do we have more questions on Slido? Not for the moment. So we thought this would be a very fresh, stimulating start of the week, but obviously Monday morning is challenging for posing questions. We are waiting to see if there may be another question. There is one. Is there a specific list of existing cooperation activities already established between other European and African institutes? This is a question for you, Patricia.
I believe it would be impossible for any one person to maintain such a list. So I think that when proposers are asked in the call topic to report on existing cooperation activities, it refers to the more notable ones, to international collaborations that would be relevant for the scope of the call. So I don't know if this is the reply you were looking for.
Very good. Yes, indeed, I think this is satisfactory. One more question. Could you further elaborate the concept? So this refers to the first topic that was presented. Agnes.
So the concept is that by principle, you elaborate a fully fledged new facility. So it's not an incremental upgrade of an existing one. So you have to present something which is brand new. So that's what we call as concept, meaning that there should be a concept study, design study, presenting the key principle of the facilities. If it's related to some specific technologies, what are the principles of this new instrumentation? If it's a complete new principle of measuring something, you have to elaborate on that, but there should be some concrete development. Exactly. Concept studies, design study, what are the principles, what are the scientific equipment that is needed, how you will develop them. Is that a single facility? Is that a distributed facilities? Is that a virtual? Is that a software? So you are ready to explain what is behind the new infrastructures.
Very good, thank you, Agnes. And the next one is for you as well. So when you talked about access, does that have the usual transnational access feature? Why do you not give an impulse to the transnational access by including also national colleagues with a limited percentage?
I suppose it's in the context of the concept, and
yes, that's what we refer to it.
When elaborating on the concept, you are building a facility that will provide access, and there is no specific focus between national or transnational. But of course, if it's something of pan-European interest, we expect that this facility will be open to users from different countries from where the facility is located, or from the funding countries involved in the setting up these new facilities. But at the level of a concept, it's really you provide a brand new, fully fledged facilities that offer access both to national researchers and transnational access to other researchers. I wonder if the question is not related to our support to transnational access, because in the topic we are discussing now, there is no specific condition on transnational access.
Absolutely. But at least the relationship to when we mention access in the current topics, you explained well. Another question here is about the ESFRI landmarks and the ERICs. If we could explain more about that when we refer to them in the topic texts. And yes?
So we have a closed list of pan-European research infrastructures. So the ESFRI landmarks, there are a bit more than 40 in the current 2021 ESFRI roadmaps. So there are all these infrastructures that are already implemented. They are covering all scientific and technological fields, from health and food, environment, energy, physical science and engineering. There are digital infrastructure as well, and social science and humanities, what ESFRI calls social and cultural innovation. Some of them have, so they have their own legal form. Some of them are ERICs, but we explicitly mention ERICs because there are two European research infrastructure consortia that are not in the ESFRI roadmap, but they are eligible as well.
Absolutely. And we have another question on the call for cooperation with Africa. And the question is, can the principal investigator or the lead partner or the coordinator, I suppose that means, be based either in the EU or be with an African partner? Patricia?
Well, the call text doesn't establish specific conditions as regards the coordinator, only as to the membership of the consortium. So yes, it's possible. The coordinator can be based either in Africa or in the EU.
Very good. I don't see another question coming in. And I'm looking at the technical staff. No more questions. So, of course, your questions are welcome at any time. There is one more question. So, in the topic 0101, there is a lot of focus on regional aspects. Can you elaborate on the expectations from the side of the Commission regarding how to address this regional aspect? And yes?
I'm not sure I would agree that there is a lot of focus on regional aspect. It's only if it's relevant. But of course, when you set up a new infrastructure, in particular single-sited, but it's also valid for distributed infrastructure, if you are able to engage and address some challenges that are relevant at regional level, if you are able to demonstrate complementarities, synergies with facilities that are that exist in the different regions, the sustainability of the infrastructure, its relevance will be reinforced. So it's something we don't develop infrastructure in isolation, in silos. We want them fully integrated in the landscape, and the landscape include all levels. European, when relevant, global, because we are sometimes addressing global challenges, but also national and regional. So there is when relevant, focus on regional aspect. It's something that each proposal should discuss. Is this level relevant? How should I address it? And maybe it's not relevant.
Thank you, Agnès. Time is running out. We have to switch to the next session. As I said, questions are welcome at any time. We will do our best to answer them as we can directly. And if we see it's a frequently asked question, we will post it on the website of the program. So with that, let's take again a very short break to change configuration in the studio before we move to the next destination, which is around the European Open Science Cloud. See you back in a few minutes.